Mr. Bryce, hail Federation headquarters, and tell them the USS Discovery is reporting for duty.
Aye, sir. Hailing now.
There is a common trope in Star Trek that it takes 2 seasons for a series to get on its feet. That has seemingly been something that has stayed consistent. Well, until Star Trek Lower Decks blew it out of the water, but that's a topic for another time. And I'll be honest, as of the upload of this video, Star Trek Discovery has been true to that form. I do have to admit that I'm currently getting some flashbacks to toxic relationships I've had in the past, where you would have someone mistreat you, be actively cruel, say they're going to change, and for a time, it appears to be so. I'm hoping that it's not this way with Discovery, but I guess we'll just have to see. Maybe Discovery writers are truly a changed people. Let's just get into it. In the Discovery episode, Die Trying, there are 3 arcs. All of them are pretty interesting, though one is given very little time, unfortunately. We have the Empress talking with who I assume is a Section 31 officer, or someone very disturbed, the state of Starfleet, and the need to help aliens that are dying. The best part of this episode is Starfleet, well, and the Federation, but we'll get to them in a bit.
There are very few species that do things simply to do them.
We're mostly untroubled by pesky motivations, except for revenge. We do like that one.
First, let's talk about the interrogation of Empress Georgiou. Her questioning is pretty interesting, but also vague. Very Section 31. Her and a figure I'm not quite sure we've been given the name to discuss how the Terrans were wiped out, which hits Georgiou pretty hard, as well as what being a Terran means. I will say that the portrayal of the Terrans as willy-nilly and just a bad interpretation of D&D's chaotic evil is somewhat cringe, but we barely see it. In my estimation, Terrans, the smart ones, rarely kill for sport. Everything and every person has a use to them. So Georgiou not trying to kill everyone on Discovery is likely because it's in her best interest, not because she has a connection to Michael. But that's neither here nor there, and again, it's a really short segment of 2 dark individuals going at it. It is exceptionally well done. The second plot involves finding a ship that has every plant the Federation has ever come upon. They do so in order to get seeds from a dead planet to help a crew that is dying. This crew is being helped by Starfleet because it's what Starfleet does. And as stated, we'll get back to that in a moment. The plot is a bit contrived. That said, I do think everything in it is plausible. I could see a 23rd century Starfleet collecting these types of plants and animals and continuing this process into the 31st century. The fact that the ship still exists is a bit of a stretch, but because it's a part of Starfleet's history, I can see it being very Star Trek, that Starfleet would try to protect it. This specific arc does have a pretty significant amount of Burnham in it, and honestly, it made me stop and think. Every time Burnham takes the reins, or is told she has to do X, I roll my eyes. But the reason is because Burnham, the character, has basically been treated like an action hero in a franchise that isn't known for action heroes. I wonder if Season 3 had actually been Season 1 for Discovery, would I have noticed at all? There are times in The Next Generation, and especially Voyager and Deep Space Nine, that we have a focus on a character who has to be the one to do it. Hell, the original series is all about Kirk, right? So, when I look at these specific instances in all of Season 3, save for the first episode, all of this isn't any different than what we've seen before. So I don't know that I'm being fair here. Either way, this plot also is a focus piece for an ancillary character, which is very sweet. Like most reviews, I won't be spoiling it because I think this episode deserves to be watched and not told.
We have been in triage for a long time.
The last arc would be that of discovering, you get it, that's the name of the ship, Discovery. They're discovering something. Oh man, so witty. Anyway, discovering the Federation and Starfleet. What I do like is that the writers recognize that these are 2 separate entities, going out of their way to point it out. Though from what we see in the scenes, there's no practical difference, at least yet. It's just lip service. Hopefully they expand that though. The Starfleet of this century is compassionate and caring. They are going to help people and crews if they can. They are also going to defend people if it's within their power. But they're in triage mode. They are trying to defend themselves. Exploration is not on the list. Honestly, this is a Starfleet that wants to be more than the sum of its parts. It wants to be something better, but it's doing all it can to survive. I'll be frank here. In this situation, I don't know that you could write a more realistic Starfleet. We also find out that Starfleet had been involved in a temporal war that I think they won it, but if they did, it was a Pyrrhic victory. It was kind of vague there. And on that measure, this episode gives a lot of interesting theories that I'll be going through in the coming days. At the end of the day, I really liked this Starfleet. This is Legacy Trek meets something new, and that's not a bad thing. Honestly, I really think the season is shaping up to be great. I hate that we had to go through 2 seasons to get here. Well, 2 seasons in 1 episode technically, but anyway, 2 seasons in 1 episode to get here, but I think we've arrived. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.